there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Teng'a here, and pardon this awkward askewedness of the screen behind me. Old tech has problems. At any rate, it seems like I am becoming more and more a YouTube activist. You know what they say? You say never, and you end up having it. Anyways, for this video, I will be discussing the reasons that being a member of the LGBTQI community is not necessarily wrong if a member of said community lives his, her, etc. life with a measure of modesty and is only in the wrong when being unabashedly promiscuous and reckless with their sexuality. The majority of my evidence will be statistical and anecdotal. First off, let's get statistical, with a liberal estimate currently standing at 5% of the population of reporting countries professing to having at least some homosexual tendencies. Around 10% being confirmed, and an additional, 10% being confirmed on the LGBTQI spectrum. And let's be honest, there's probably an additional 5 to 10% in more and denial or active suppression of their true sexual orientation or identity. Simply put, there cannot be an error in that many people because statistically an error is a few odd percent here and there, not a massive number such as anywhere near what we're getting into. Somewhere between 1 in 5 and 1 in 10 is not an error. It's a statement. It's a certainty or mathematical probability that is locked in above an error grade. Now, here's where I go and get a little off evidentiary, but more suppositionary or subjectively analyzing the evidence at hand. Now, here are a few factors I could ascertain behind those additional 5 to 10% being not honest about their sexuality. Chief of all is religious notions from millennia past that were probably misinterpreted or deliberately mistranslated along the road as such to be homophobic in closer to modern times up through today's time period. The next reason is definitely comes from a conservative cultural mores, or rather from conservative cultural mores that cannot accept anything outside a binary concept of sexual relations. And by binary, of course, I mean if you are A, you must be with B. In other words, if you're a man, you find woman. If you are a woman, you find man. Anything else is, you know, unacceptable. And lastly, of course, comes down to just the last factor is, I should say, of course, comes down to just simply not wanting to admit an uncomfortable truth about oneself as I nearly did until my fishy year in college. Please don't make me try to have to need to explain that later. How about that anecdotal evidence I was talking about? Well, this is all personally relevant to myself, comes from my own experiences. So of course others may vary, but let's just leave it at that. Well, when I graduated high school, I discovered a girl whose house I chilled at, and not that way, you dirty folk. I seriously mean just went over, grabbed a couple sodas, talked over, talked and chilled with. Again, out of the gutters. I'm the one putting myself in the gutter. Another person I found was a major playboy type Latino whose boyfriend, whose ex boyfriend I met in college, and who blew my mind wide open about that fact. And of course, one or two others were in the community with me, but not yet ready to introduce themselves. But due to the high school's locale and cultural aesthetic, could not be openly lesbian, gay, bisexual, etc. Now let's just add that pile to the pile of supporting statistical evidence. And of course, this anecdotal evidence leads us up to the fact that 1 in 6 or so people I met in college were also members of the community, ranging from different ethnicities, different genders, different backgrounds. You can't have that many and it being a inherently wrong thing. Where I think things do get inherently wrong, let me say, is when those who just go buck wild whilst bucking each other and bucking frequently with other people. And yes, I'm trying to keep this PG-13 maximum. Can't be all wrong if there's that many of us from that big of a spectrum. Am I right or am I wrong? Let me know down below what your thoughts are on the subject. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up, I'd appreciate that. And if you do me a favor, subscribe. And I thank you for your time. And I'm out.